We did just learn that legendary actor and director Robert Redford has passed away. He was 89 years old.
Imagine walking into a room filled with the biggest names in Hollywood, family members holding back tears, and fans standing in quiet respect. Yet, in that moment, all eyes turned not to the stars, not to the music, but to one woman, Sibylle, the wife of Robert Redford. What she said at his funeral was so powerful, so raw, that it left the entire room in silence. Today, we uncover her emotional words and the unforgettable legacy of a man the world adored. The funeral of Robert Redford was a day of quiet tears, heavy hearts, and deep respect. Friends, family, and fans from around the world came together to celebrate the life of a man who had shaped the history of cinema and inspired countless lives. But when Sibylle stepped forward to speak, the atmosphere shifted into something unforgettable. Her voice trembled at first, carrying the weight of grief, yet every word rang with love and truth. She wasn't speaking to the audience alone, she was speaking to Robert, the man she had loved, lived with, and shared her life with. She began by saying that no words could ever capture the man he truly was, but she would try because he deserved nothing less. She didn't speak of him as the world-famous actor, director, or founder of the Sundance Film Festival. Instead, she spoke of the man she knew at home. She described his love for quiet mornings, his habit of pausing to admire the light shining through the trees, and his gentle humor that caught people by surprise. According to Sibylle, one of Robert's greatest gifts was his ability to listen, truly listen. In a world where so many rushed to speak, he made people feel understood and valued. Even in his final years, as his body weakened, his spirit never did. He remained curious, hopeful, and creative, always asking questions and exploring new possibilities. She recalled a moment when Robert told her, "Life is not about how long we live, but how deeply we live it." With tears in her eyes, she reminded everyone that he had indeed lived deeply through his art, his activism, his friendships, and above all, through the love he gave to his family. Her tribute wasn't just about memory, it was about gratitude. She thanked him for choosing to share his life with her, for the journeys they took together across the world, and for the evenings they spent sitting quietly, watching the sunset. To her, those simple moments were more meaningful than any red carpet. She explained how Robert taught her that greatness wasn't measured by fame or applause, but by kindness, authenticity, and the courage to stay true to yourself. At one point, her voice broke, and she pressed her hand to her heart. The room was still, with only the sound of muffled sobs echoing through the church. She admitted that while the world had lost an icon, she had lost her partner, her confidant, and her best friend. Yet she found comfort in knowing that his spirit was not truly gone. It lived on in his art, in the causes he supported, and in the countless lives he touched. As she ended her speech, Sibylle placed her hand gently on the casket and whispered, "Thank you, my love." The silence that followed was soon replaced by soft sobs and quiet applause, not the applause of performance, but of gratitude. Gratitude for a life so beautifully lived. The story of Robert Redford did not end at his funeral. To understand the depth of his legacy, one must look back to where it all began. Charles Robert Redford Jr. was born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California. His parents were Martha Woodruff Redford and Charles Robert Redford Sr. He also had a half-brother, William, on his father's side. The Redford family carried Irish, Scottish, and English roots. His great-great-grandfather Elisha Redford, an English Protestant, married Marion McCreary, who came from an Irish Catholic family. They immigrated to New York in 1849 and later settled in Stonington, Connecticut. On his mother's side, the Hart family hailed from Galway, Ireland, while the Green family were Scotch-Irish settlers who had come to America in the 18th century. Though raised in California, Robert often traveled with his family to Austin, Texas, where he spent time with his maternal grandfather. These trips instilled in him a lifelong love for the outdoors and sparked his environmental passions. As a teenager, he attended Van Nuys High School, where one of his classmates was Don Drysdale, who went on to become a Major League Baseball pitcher. Though Robert struggled academically, he found joy in sports and art. At just 11, He battled a mild case of polio, which gave him early resilience. After graduating in 1954, he attended the University of Colorado in Boulder, working at a local restaurant called The Sink, where his painted face still decorates the walls today. His college years, however, were troubled. Heavy drinking led to the loss of his scholarship, and eventually he was expelled. Rather than give up, Robert set out to travel through Europe, visiting France, Spain, and Italy, experiences that would shape his worldview and ignite his creativity. When he returned to the United States, Robert Redford pursued acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. Shy at first, he struggled with confidence until a teacher reassured him of his natural talent. By 1959, he had landed his first television role in Perry Mason. His big break came in 1963, starring in Neil Simon's Broadway hit Barefoot in the Park, a role he later reprised in the 1967 film opposite Jane Fonda. But it was 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, alongside Paul Newman, that catapulted him into superstardom. The film became a cultural milestone, winning 4 Academy Awards and making Redford a household name throughout the 1970s. He starred in hits like Jeremiah Johnson 1972, The Way We Were 1973 with Barbra Streisand, The Great Gatsby 1974, and All the President's Men 1976, where he and Dustin Hoffman brought the Watergate scandal to life on screen. By the 1980s, Robert Redford transitioned into directing. His debut, Ordinary People 1980, won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and he himself received the Oscar for Best Director. He continued directing acclaimed films like A River Runs Through It 1992, Quiz Show 1994, and The Horse Whisperer 1998. He remained one of Hollywood's most admired leading men, starring in romantic classics like Out of Africa 1985 alongside Meryl Streep. But he often admitted he felt trapped by the label of handsome leading man. He wanted to be remembered for his storytelling and activism, not just his looks. On September 16, 2025, Robert Redford passed away peacefully in his sleep at his home in Sundance, Utah. He was 89. News of his death sent shockwaves across Hollywood and beyond. Tributes poured in. Jane Fonda said, "He meant a lot to me and was a beautiful person in every way. He stood for an America we have to keep fighting for." Meryl Streep mourned, "One of the lions has passed. Rest in peace, my lovely friend." Others like Ron Howard, Marlee Matlin, Stephen King, Coleman Domingo, and even former U.S. President Donald Trump shared their condolences. Critics hailed him as a giant of American cinema. His creation of the Sundance Institute in 1981 and the Sundance Film Festival gave rise to a new era of independent filmmaking, launching the careers of directors like Steven Soderbergh with Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Quentin Tarantino with Reservoir Dogs, and Ryan Coogler with Fruitvale Station. By the time of his death, Robert Redford had built a fortune estimated at $200 million. From earning $500,000 for The Sting in 1973 to $11 million for The Last Castle in 2001. His career earnings reflected decades of unmatched influence. His widow, Sibylle Zagars, is expected to inherit much of his estate. And so, despite the fame, the fortune, and the countless accolades, Robert Redford's true legacy was never measured in awards. It was written in his art, his activism, his love for nature, and his commitment to uplifting new voices in film. As Sibylle reminded us, while the world lost an icon, she lost her partner and best friend. Yet his spirit lives on in every story, every cause, and every heart he touched. His light will never fade. Thank you for watching.